Okay, we are going to start a new series this week, and it's kind of focused on music. And so I thought it would be fun if I would take you this morning on a musical journey through my life. I grew up in a very, very conservative home, and we were not allowed to listen to secular music. But I was never very good at obeying rules, and so I would sneak downstairs and turn on the radio to 1a.avi WHB, and I would listen to secular music a lot. We didn't have a TV in my home, and so that was one of my sources of entertainment. And the groups that I would listen to would really influence the way that I heard music. Now, I started playing the piano when I was 5 years old because there was really nothing else for me to do in our house. And my mom was a really good coach. I would get in there and practice. And so by the time I was in third grade, I was already playing for church because I had just logged a lot of time. Well, one of my favorite groups when I was younger in life was a group called the 3 Dog Night. Does anybody remember that? Okay, right. I didn't know how many would know the 3 Dog Night, but I love the 3 Dog Night. And when I was a fifth grader, and we would go to church, and we would be singing Amazing Grace, very, sacredly and stoically, and we didn't move in my church at all. You held very still and held the hymnal. But when we would be singing Amazing Grace, my mind would drift to a faraway place. And I would hear Amazing Grace very differently, maybe kind of the way that the 3 Dog Night would do it, something like this. Amazing grace, so sweet the sound, that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Was blind, but now I see. Singing a joy to the world. All the boys and girls now. A joy to the fishes in the deep blue sea. Joy to you and me. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. My church would not do that for me, I promise you. Well, I've always really liked the 3 Dog Night, but probably about 3 years later in music, my 7th or 8th year in middle school, I found a new hero in music, none other than Mr. Elton John. And one of the best songwriters ever. And when I would go to church and they would be singing Amazing Grace, again, I would drift to a faraway place. And I would hear it kind of differently, kind of like this. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. 'Twas blind, but now I see. This is my favorite part. Well, the biggest change in my early life occurred when I was 14 years old. I had grown up in the metropolis of Kansas City, and my dad decided to move us to a farm when I was 14. And so when I was 14, I started getting up at 5:30 in the morning, milking the cows and feeding the chickens and doing all those fun things that farm people do. I'm a sensitive, I tell you. And when we would go to our little church in Lawrence, Kansas, on a good Sunday, we would have about 18. And when we got together and sang Amazing Grace, it sounded something like this. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. 'Twas blind, but now I see. My dad loves for me to play that way. In fact, when I was a kid growing up, he said, "Son, if you'll slip one of those curly cues in the hymn, I'll give you $1." Well, country music didn't last a whole long time for me because I really kind of wanted to explore all the kinds of music that were out there. So from my freshman year in high school to my sophomore year, I made a 180-degree turn, and I went from country to R&B. And my new hero in music was none other than the king of rhythm and blues himself, Mr. Stevie Wonder. And when I would go to church, and we would be singing Amazing Grace, my mind would drift as far away. And I would hear Amazing Grace a little different, kind of like this. Oh, amazing grace, oh, how sweet the sound, and I once was lost, I thank God I'm found. I was blind, oh, but now I see. Thank God for God's amazing grace. Reach right down and got a hold of me. Oh, amazing grace, God's amazing grace. Oh, amazing grace, God's amazing grace. Well, that's kind of the music that I grew up with, but a little bit later on in my life, like everybody else, in the 80s, I was kind of amazed by a new artist that just kind of swept onto the scene. And like everybody else, I kind of jumped on the Michael Jackson train. I have a time for you, whoever you did. And when I would go to church in the 80s, and they would be singing Amazing Grace, I would hear it very differently. Kind of like this. Make sure I don't stack Well, again, that's kind of the music that I grew up with, and to be honest, at 52, I've probably a little too busy to keep up with some of the newer music, but I suppose that if I were 15 years old today, and the kids, wondering what's going on here. If I were 15 years old today and I went to church and they were singing Amazing Grace, I might hear it like the #1 song on the Billboard today. Kind of like this. Yes? Here it goes. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but I can finally see. And I know that it was grace, grace, grace that set me free. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. I once was lost, but now I'm found. All right. Well, hey, if you haven't figured it out by now, we are not the normal church. We like to have a lot of fun here. So, good morning. Welcome to Crosspoint. It is really, really, really good to see all of you. I think we have some visitors here today. So, church family, could we put our hands together and welcome them? Welcome, and welcome to those of you who we haven't seen for a while. I hope that you had a really, really blessed Christmas season, and I hope that you had a wonderful New Year's celebration. And the reason I say that is I wasn't here last week. Edith and I and our girls got to slip away for a week on the beach, and it was a great time. 3 days on the beach, but we had a great time. It's good to be home. And we are looking forward to entering into 2011 here with our church family here at Crosspoint. And we believe that this is going to be the year that our church building gets built. Amen? I want to say a special thank you to Steve Williams for doing such a great job last week. I've heard wonderful compliments on his sermon. So could we put our hands together and thank him? Thank you, Steve. It's a joy to work with you, and thank you for always doing an excellent job when you speak, doing it skillfully before the Lord. I'm excited about this series, Songs in the Key of Life, because I really do believe that music is woven into the fabric of our life. I believe that music and words to music, they paint pictures in our minds. They bring vivid memories to our life. A wise philosopher once said, give me the music of a generation, and I will give you the youth of that generation.